Welcome back to the Formation Lap with Todd and Brad, regular guys talking elite racing. And Formula One fans, what an exciting start we had to the 2026 season last week in Melbourne as we saw Mercedes and George Russell dominate the Australian Grand Prix. And we're back for race 2 of the season in China. Todd, this is always an exciting race. And in 2025, of course, we saw Oscar Piastri really have a dominant performance here. Lando was able to pull it out on the podium. He had some late struggles in the race with some braking where he had to lift and coast a lot. And then, of course, I believe George Russell was on the podium. Todd, that was kind of the quick 2025 race. Do you have anything else to add to last year's race or kind of what we're anticipating for this weekend?
Yeah, hey, Brad, and welcome, fans. What an exciting week we've had already, and we get another race. That's what's exciting about it. But, yeah, with China, last year they had 45 overtakes. And if you just look at Melbourne, Australia race, then they had 120 overtakes. And so that was unprecedented, and with these new regulation stuff, I'm super excited about it. And, that overtake is fun for the fan. It might not be exciting for somebody that's, not overtaking, but it sure was a lot of fun there. But, having the new regulations, the track, I think it's going to be something that we'll all get excited about. And we're going to talk about in a minute, there's some long stretches that they can really do that. So China already has, that up for them, and this is just going to take it to the next level.
Right.
And so, as we look at this, what do you think about what the boost and the overtake is going to do here?
I think it's going to be real vital. I mean, and we're going to get a little bit into this. We're going to show kind of a breakdown of the track. But Todd, one of the big differences here this week in China versus last week in Australia, there's some very complicated corners and chicanes. There's also several high speed corners. So these drivers are going to really have to anticipate and strategize how they recharge their batteries, where to use boost at, and of course overtake mode is going to come in critically. Todd, I thought you brought up a good point. This China this week, and not to go too far in advance, but in a couple weeks in Japan, these are two courses that are not really known for overtakes. It's kind of and I believe I read something that China, the last how many ever winners, it came from the front row. So this is not a place that's known for overtakes, but with these new cars, who knows? And I know you've seen it and I've seen it. A lot of the drivers are saying, well, it's kind of like Mario Kart right now. Me and you both love to play Mario Kart, but I don't know that F1 drivers necessarily do. But no, you bring up a good point. What these guys are still learning how to use boost, when to deploy it. Overtake is so different than DRS. So China is going to be really, really interesting. And then we throw on the fact that they get to spend a little bit less time just in practice, which we're going to get to in a second.
Oh, yeah.
It could be a crazy, hectic weekend.
Yeah. So, Brad, let me show you what we're talking about. If you see on behind us here, Melbourne was all about high speed, turns long, and there wasn't many sharp ones.
And a power track,
and
too.
A power track. And it was a kind of a street circuit. This one's permanent. But if you look on the screen there behind us, the symbol actually represents Shanghai is, upward.
Right.
And if you look behind us too, there's a lot of curves. The first curve, it really makes more than a hairpin. It comes around. If you've ever been to the Smoky Mountains, there's a couple of those where you have to go under yourself that you just went over. And this curve here also narrows.
Yeah.
So as soon as the racers think they're doing something, that curve keeps coming and coming. And the back straight, we're going to talk about that in a minute. It is long, and that's going to be something that's real interesting because the batteries that we've got to go through. And for those who've ever driven a hybrid car or a mix, whatever that is, and you want to charge the battery, you can let off the gas while you're going downhill, and you see the battery charging up, and then you say, okay, I can use that. So we're going to find out how they have to manage some of this. And a few of these also have some G-forces in the curves. And I know we'll talk about that in a minute, but it is something. And we'll talk a little bit about what they're going to do with the overtake and as we do it. But Brad, looking at the track here, what do you think is going to really happen with these drivers now?
So Todd, something I'm interested in, if you follow Formula One news at all, you've seen, and it's been a lot of drivers, they said they're very concerned about the starts of the race, just getting the revs up and everything. Todd, if we see a crazy start we did last week, especially going into turn 1 where it's that really tight hairpin into turns 2 and 3, right, it could be chaos. I mean, in turn 1 there's a runoff where there's a barrier, and if you go off into that and can't stop, you're out of the race. Yeah. So that's going to be critical. But you can see behind me here, 1 through 4 is really technical. It's really tricky. These guys, they have to get it right. They have to be on the brakes. But Todd, that's also going to be a chance for them to charge. Yeah. That's going to be curious. And then you mentioned it. This long back straightaway. Oh, yeah. They're 13 going into 14. I think that could be an interesting place to try to maybe, it's not an overtake detection, but to try to use boost there as defense and offense. But then going back up the main straightaway, that's where you're going to see it. Todd, I'm gonna make a prediction here. We're going to see more overtakes this year than we did last year in China. So. I just that's one of the things that Formula One and the FIA said is, for these kind of courses, we're going to see several more of these courses where it's in the past with the older cars, it was tough to overtake. I think we're going to see more overtakes this year.
Yeah, I think so. And Brad, let me tell the fans too, the overtake is you'll see on some of the screens that you can find online or whatever, there's detection zones.
Right.
And if you're 1 second behind the car in front of you, you get to hit overtake, which kind of gives you full power for that moment in time for engine and battery. But then guess what's happening to the battery? It's starting to drain.
Right.
So you have to wait. So you've got to choose the overtake right, but you can do it in anywhere on the course after the detection zone where DRS was different. And then the boost is they just can use it anywhere and decide I'm going to do it, and it's just flat out full.
And it's offense and defense, which I think is I love that. Todd, I thought we saw a really good battle with Lando and Max, about the last 12 laps last week, where Max was on much fresher tires. And I know you talked about it off camera, that if that would have been last year, Max on 5-lap fresher tires, he would have passed Lando no problem. But Lando started to learn the car. He used that boost, and he ended up finishing. Lando finished 5th, Max finished 6th. He ended up finishing by about 3 seconds more than Max on older tires. So, Todd, I'm with you. Boost is going to be critical for this place.
Oh, it is. And Brad, also, on these cars, we have these downforce cars in front of us now. Right? These are old now.
Right.
But they have what's called the active aero. And what that is the back wing and the front wing can open. And so as a kid, maybe adults, when you're driving down the road, when you stick your hand out of the window, you're like, oh, yeah, if you have your hand flat like this, it's fast. But if you do this, what happens? And that's what active aero is both the front and the back turn flat, and they can go. So they're going to have to really figure this out. And as you said, a lot of the drivers were learning each other in Melbourne, because when the flashing light was going on the back, it wasn't the brake light.
Right.
It was telling the driver in the back that, oh, he's charging up his battery. Maybe I can overtake him now while he's charging. I'm going to do the active aero too while I'm doing it, and boost. And if you got to watch Melbourne last week, in the practice, whatever you call it, before the formation lap, Oscar wrecked because he didn't know how much power he had. And when he hit the curb and then started to go, it took him. And so these drivers, as you said, are doing it. So technically, what does that really mean now that you're in this type of racetrack for the drivers to make their decisions of when I'm going to make, these critical passes?
Yeah. Todd, something we saw in Melbourne last week is we saw passing where you in years past you would have never seen it. This one I'm interested because you do see some more higher speed corners. I think you see a little bit more technical corners than you did in Melbourne. I don't know that we'll see that. However, I still think just because of these cars, just because the use of boost and everything, and once again, this is a completely different track. There may be some more opportunities where guys are saying, where drivers are saying, hey, I see this guy, he's recharged his battery, let me get on and pass him. So I still think you're going to see some unconventional passing, maybe not like last week. Todd, one other thing I wanted to point out to our fans that may not know this, last year in China, it was a resurfaced track. It was the first time it had been raced on. It was a resurfaced track. The tire wear, the tire degradation was strong. I mean, you saw guys, I mean, early in the race on not that old tire saying, hey, there's graining, the tire's starting to chew up already. I'm going to have to get on some fresh tires. From reading some articles and hearing some different things, should not be as much of an issue, which is good. We haven't talked about, the weather looks good, but it was hot in Australia last week, which of course with that surface temp, it wears out the tires a lot quicker. Shouldn't be this much of an issue in China, but look, once again, brand new cars. We still don't know the full effect that these cars are having on tires yet, Todd.
We don't. And I mean, Brad, we saw some teams didn't even finish, because they didn't know what the car was like. Engines quit. Aston Martin, they didn't even get any, Lance didn't even get out.
Right.
Because of the car, and it's too heavy. Williams. But they're going to figure it out.
Yeah.
But you're exactly right. But in the past, it was tire management, right? Soft tires. I know I've got so many laps. I know the guy in front of me is already 5, like you said. And so, it's going to be crazy on this.
So, Todd, let's hit on another point about what's kind of new this weekend in China. If you're new to F1 or if you're just kind of a casual fan, you're going to see something this weekend, and that's a sprint race. And I'm going to let Todd get into that in a second, but it's going to be really exciting. But, Todd, first of all, what is a sprint race, and how does this change the weekend schedule?
Yeah, so for us normal fans, this sprint is basically 20 laps all out. No pitting, no gassing up, no changing tires unless they need. But if you do, good luck. But they all go straight out. And what that is going to do is going to basically limit their practice. They're going to have to qualify for sprint, and then they're going to have to qualify for the race. But sprint is kind of like a qualifying in a way, but it's, the drivers love it because they get to just drive flat out. There's no strategy of 58 laps or however many. Somewhere it's 20 straight out, and they enjoy it. And they're going to take some risks that they might not in the race, and so that's going to change some things. So when you look at it, Friday, you're only going to get a couple of practice, and
you get one practice.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and then the sprint qualifying, and then so everything gets crunched.
Yeah.
On that.
So Todd, I think that's a good point. It's interesting because, like we said, when there's a sprint weekend, we're going to have, I think there's 6 of these throughout the season. Yeah. There won't be one for a while, but when you have a sprint weekend, that means you get one chance to practice in your car and tweak it. Then you do sprint qualifying, and then it's a sprint race, and then regular qualifying, and then a race. So Todd, to me, that says on a course like this, in new cars, I think these guys are in their only practice session. I think they're going to be trying to get as many laps in. They're going to be trying to get the data, the information back on how the car's doing. What's my active aero like? So it's going to be crunched, and then just getting into sprint a little weak. You hit on all the good points, but basically the sprint is a fourth of a regular race, and points are only positions 1 through 8. So in a regular race, positions are 1 through 10. It's 1 through 8 in a sprint, and basically it works 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So there's still points up for grabs. There's not as many, but Todd, we saw it as far as the guys. You can probably narrow it down to like 4 guys that are going to be in true contention for the Drivers' Championship. They're going to want every point available that they can get. Yeah. And then the constructors. I mean, the teams, they want to see, if you're out there at the top, if you're battling for the top 4, you want to see both your drivers in the sprint points this weekend, but also some of those midfield, if they have a chance to still, even if it's 1 or 2 points in the sprint race, they're going to want a chance to do it. So it's going to be, honestly, it's going to be a condensed weekend, but the sprint race, Todd, is going to give a lot of indication of what we see in the regular, long race.
Yeah, and Brad, you saw some wreck last week,
right?
Kimmy, pretty tough wreck, and if they wreck in the sprint, they're not going to have as many opportunities.
That's exactly right.
But they're going to be going all out.
That's exactly right.
Everything's got to be just right, and this is kind of like when you and I went to Texas, and there was a section of road that basically said speed limit is 80. And we were like, really? And so that's kind of what sprint is.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, it's not 55 anymore.
Right.
I get to go, and of course that's exaggerating what these guys do, but they really get to go at it. But so Brad, I mean, with any changes to the cars you think they're going to make from Melbourne to this track, and for the sprint and then for the real race?
Once again, I think you're gonna see each team and the drivers. They're really taught. I think they're gonna get out to their only practice session. I think they're gonna really try to maximize their laps. They're gonna put on all three tire compounds to see what's going on. Todd, I always think sprint's a fine line of, yes, I want to score points. Yes, I want to look. These guys are the ultimate competitors. They want to beat everyone else. But it's also that fine line of, hey, I don't want to wreck my car and mess it up for qualifying. It's always a fine line. And so, I definitely think, I think the sprint, it's going to be fascinating because they're going to get a really good indication of, okay, this is what I need to do. This is what I did in sprint qualifying versus regular qualifying. This is what happened in the sprint race.
Right.
It's different, but this is what needs to be done in the regular race. So it's going to be interesting.
Man, it's going to be exciting.
All right, so Todd, let's move on. It is prediction time, and of course, as we did last week, we're gonna give our kind of take and our prediction to our respective teams, and then we're gonna get into what we think is going to happen in the sprint. We're going to get into our surprise points finish, and then we'll get into our podium. So, Todd, I'm going to start with you. Your Scuderia Ferrari, your red. First of all, real quick before you get into what you think happens for the weekend, tell us about this unusual new feature that we'll see in practice one on the Ferrari car.
So, if anybody watched the practice in Bahrain, it was day 3, I think, or something. Just one practice time. Ferrari's come out with that back wing, if you see on the car here, to where I told you they got to hold it down for drag, and then they flip it, for this. Well, they've got it where it's going to 360 flip. And it's weird when you see it, but what it's designed to do is, of course, to allow, them to go fast, but when they get into the curve, it's also going to help them. But they're only going to do it, I think, in practice, but I'm hoping they might just forget to turn it off and in sprint still practice it. Yeah, but I mean, Brad, what do you think about this? Because
it's crazy. It's super innovative. I'm sure one team out there, because look, these teams all they have respect for each other, but they're all trying to gain an advantage. Some team's going to complain about it and probably take it to the FIA.
Yeah.
But it's cool, Todd. I don't hate it, and I think it's cool that they're bringing it out for a track like a course like this in China on a sprint weekend. We'll find out. So go ahead.
And Brad, Lewis Hamilton's won 6 times here.
Yes, he's been great here
and he's
in China.
had many poles.
Yeah.
I think he owns both of those records for China.
He's been fantastic in China.
You know what he's going to do with this flip wing thing? He's going to use it all the time, and so I'm excited to see where Lewis, because I saw a step, little step in his step.
He looked different
after last week's race. He felt good, and the car was doing. Now they've added this.
Yep.
Oh man.
Yep.
So Brad, I mean, predictions. If you weren't here last week, I said Max, and he disappointed me, but he sure did do pretty good, bringing it up the ranks. But I really think that we're going to see. I'm going to go for Lewis, because I think he's just that on fire, and he's going to have this next upgrade that's here, and it's just going to, I think, take him to another level. And he learned a lot last week.
He did.
I think George will still be right there, because George understood it. And then I think one of the Red Bulls is going to show up in there. Isaac was very sharp last week until his injury.
He looked good.
So that's the race. I know I forgot to talk about the sprint, but we'll do that in a minute.
Yeah.
But what do you think about the race? Your prediction.
Well, I'm going to get real quick into Papaya. Tough.
Oh yeah.
No, you're fine. Tough weekend. Obviously, hated it for Oscar. His home race. Tough for him. Todd, I said this, I thought he had a better command of the car than Lando did.
Yeah.
Once again, Lando had a tough weekend. I was impressed with how Lando held off Max in those last 12, 13 laps. I think Oscar finishes ahead of Lando in both the sprint and the race. I think he's got better command of the car. I think Oscar's going to be hungry, that he wants to come out and show that, hey, last week it was tough for me. It was a fluke. So. All right, Todd, predictions for the sprint race. Let's have your podium for the sprint race.
All right, sprint was George. I think he's still going to pull it off.
Okay.
And then one of the Ferrari guys is going to be there, because they were right on
the tail
of each of them. And then I'm gonna say one of the Racing Bulls.
One of the Racing Bulls.
I think Lindblad really showed up
that's
well.
That's an out of the box.
That's a sprint.
But I like it. Yeah.
It's a sprint,
okay.
so I
yeah.
think,
And Lindblad, he looked great.
Yeah.
He looked great. Okay.
Yeah, I think he's like a rookie. He doesn't know any better, right?
No.
So he's like, okay,
he's going all out. He's
for it.
he's trying to make the point that he belongs in F1.
And their cars look good.
They did. They did.
Actually did. So what are you calling for?
All right, I'm going to go in P1 in his first ever P1 finish. I'm going to go Kimi.
All right.
I love what Kimi did last week. Unfortunately, Todd Kimi in the race, he had a really, Lewis and Charles went right past him. But I think Kimi takes his first ever P1 in F1. I'm pulling for him. I like it in 2. I'm going to go George. George is the best right now.
Yeah.
A lot of that's car, but George is a very talented racer. I don't want to take that away from him. In 3rd, I'm going to go Lewis. I love what Lewis is doing. Lewis looks like he's back at Mercedes with some confidence.
Yeah.
He likes this car. Todd, I'll be honest, I thought there were times last week in Australia he was going to catch Charles, but he didn't. So that's what I'm going with. Todd, this is for the big race on Sunday. Who is your surprise points finish?
Oh, okay. So I still think Kimi, even though you're talking about it too, right? But I think that one's a hard one because I like the Audi, however you want to say
Audi,
it. Audi. I think that's where they'll be.
Okay, you think they're going to finish in the points?
One of them.
Okay,
yes.
I like that.
Yeah, one of them.
I like that. I'm going to go Liam Lawson.
Okay.
Once again, I like what the Racing Bulls did.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go Liam finishing. I'm going to give him P10 in the race to finish it and get him the points. All right, so Todd, let's start to wrap this thing up. Give me who is on the podium in the 2026 China Grand Prix.
Okay, I just said it a minute
ago. That's all right.
I got ahead.
That's okay.
It's going to be Lewis, George, and Isaac.
Lewis. Look, just quick here before we jump to mine. Why Isaac over Max?
Because I think Isaac is hungry to show what he's doing, and he has shown that he can drive that car. And everybody else, Liam and others, could not drive it. And if his engine wouldn't have gone out, I think he would have been in 4th, and he might have been challenging the podium.
And Todd, we're going to talk about this storyline more in the year, but Red Bull's finally found a driver next to Max, and Isaac's not going to back down for Max. I think there's mutual respect between those two.
Right.
But we are both Isaac Hadjar fans. I mean, we talked about it last year.
Yes.
They finally found their number 2. So I like that prediction. All right.
What about you, Brad?
Mine is going to be I'm going to go George in P1. I can't not go against him right now. I'm going Lewis Hamilton P2. I'm pulling for Lewis. Look, Todd. Ferrari, I think, is going to be competitive this weekend.
Yeah.
They looked good last weekend. The start, they have figured out the start.
Yeah.
I think Lewis in P2, and then I'm going Kimi in P3.
Okay.
I think I think Kimi is he's still young, right? I mean, this is he's 26 races into his F1 career. He's still figuring things out.
Yeah.
So it's going to be fun. So Todd, we're both really looking forward to it. To our F1 fans, once again, thank you for joining us here on the Formation Lap. We're just a couple of regular guys that enjoy talking about elite Formula One racing. Please give this video a like. Comment what you're expecting to see in the sprint and in the regular race. Give us some thoughts on how you see this crazy 2026 season play out. And we would really appreciate it if you subscribe to our channel. We love Formula One. We're going to continue to put out videos each and every week, and we just appreciate your support. So we will see you next week for our reaction video to the China race. We apologize we didn't get one out last week. We had a little bit of technical difficulties, but those have been figured out. We will see you next time for our China reaction. But thank you so much from Todd and Brad. This is the Formation Lap.
All right. Have a good one.